So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have a question and answer session. I would like to open it, and for those people who want to ask question, you may make use of the mic that is sitting in the middle of the hall. Please introduce yourself and also your position or the organization that you're representing, and please be short and precise. You're welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Yang Berbahagia Dr. Anis Baswedan. My name is Tengku Ahmad Ridauddin from ISTAC, PhD students doing study on Malay world civilizations. It's very interesting for you to be here, and so happen I'm flying to Jakarta tomorrow. But I couldn't get the definitions of the Malay world in your speech. Perhaps you could explain further on what is the definitions of Malay world. As what we understand, you define Malay world as Southeast Asia, which I think Malay world is beyond, it's bigger than Southeast Asia. Perhaps you can explain. That's my first question. My second question is this. The information that you shared on the differentiations based on the language and linguists and cultures. But I think the modern technology has reached to understand that the differentiation and the similarities of the people in the Malay world are based on their genetics, their human genomes. I found that in my studies, as a genomist, partly in my work, that the Malay world populations are differentiated by human genomes, not only by cultures. Human genomics, DNA. So perhaps, do you have an idea of this development in Indonesia? Thank you very much.
We would like to collect a few more questions before we proceed to answer. Yes, please, the second.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi everyone. My name is Faza. I'm a business student from IUM. I would like to say that I'm very grateful for having this chance. And what I want to ask regarding, since we talk about the future, sir, regarding the discourse on the construction of Canal, or in Thailand, the canal that will build in Thailand, how significant the impact on countries around Malacca Strait, such as Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. We are the maritime islands, we are the maritime countries. And I would like to ask your suggestion for us, the younger generation, what should we do to anticipate this kind of changes? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, Prof? Yes.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Ahmad Murad from ISTAC. I don't have a question, but I'd like to share a historical episode resonating from...
Prof, can you get closer to the mic?
I don't have a question, but I'd like to share a historical episode resonating from your lecture. You mentioned about the Bandung conference. You mentioned about the future. One of the figures that who has charted the future of Indonesia and this region, this rantau, is your grandfather, Abdurrahman Baswedan. You have inherited that discourse from him. Abdurrahman Baswedan was, just to share, a diplomat, a writer, statesman, an editor of a number of newspapers, including non-Arab newspapers. Incidentally, I'm doing some study on the Hadrami press in the Malay world. I've published an essay on the Hadrami Press some months ago, and we'll be publishing a book co-written by two others from ISTEC on the Hadramis from the Indian Ocean perspective. I'd like to share this, what I've written. In 1934, and this is the future. Abdurrahman urged Arabs to integrate into Indonesian society and be part of national identity. He led the local-born Arabs to actively participate in the struggle for Indonesia's independence. He called on the Arab community to embrace the fundamentals of jus soli citizenship, and this way I want to quote, "Di mana saya lahir, di situlah tanah airku." The place of my birth is my homeland. Abdurrahman was a journalist, diplomat, statesman extraordinaire that would have to recognize in any discourse on nationalism and journalism in the Malay world. Thank you.
Definition of the Malay. Yes, before we go to the question again, let us address first the question first regarding the definition of the Malay world. What exactly that mean, the Malay world? Is that only refers to Southeast Asia or maybe beyond than that? That's the first question. Silakan.
Yeah, thank you. I've been referring to Malay in terms of people of Melayu here in Southeast Asia. And it's in terms of a collective experience, culture, heritage of the Malay people that encompasses among them common identities, common arts and culture, and in a way, religion, which often referred as Islam in the religions of the Malay, as well as cuisines, food, taste, which often also reflect some flavor of Melayu, beside language, history, and heritage. So that's our variables that define, in our view, when I discuss about Melayu, how we define Melayu. Terima kasih.
The second question is also related to this, Malay. You are talking about the differentiation always made based on language or linguistic. But is there any other factors that maybe can be used, for example, the human genome or DNA?
On that, unfortunately, I don't have much to say. However, I view in our experience and observations, the factor of language has been instrumental in creating the feeling of equality and the feeling of togetherness and unity. I often look at the experience of Western Europe, in which they have been able to form from European Economic Community into European Community a journey of no less than 50 years into creating one common community in Europe. However, to reach into the feeling of unity and equality, they have always find difficulties. And one of the reasons why is in EU, they have 23 official languages. So even though you are together in the same room, but everyone in that same room were wearing headsets with translators in the back of the conference room, be it parliament, be it conferences. And every document that was made has to be translated into these 23 common languages. You are also seeing the experience of South Asia in India, in which the parliaments allowed members to speak with local language, with Hindi, or with English. And you can imagine complexity when competing representative coming from regions. Some speaks local language, some speak Hindi, some speak English. It can be politicized that you are less local and you are two nationals. But when we agreed upon that one common language, creating unity, creating togetherness has been much smoother. Thank you.
Yes. Question 3 actually from Faza, but I do not get exactly the question is all about. If I may invite Brother Faza again to ask the question to Adis, please.
Okay, it's related to the discourse that Thailand will build a canal. Yeah, and how should we? What is the suggestion for us, the younger generation, that will contribute in the future economy, global economy? And we are from the maritime countries, right? So,
If I may just share, I mean, I didn't pay much attention on the plan of deploying the canal anyway, but as someone who is young like yourself, change is always coming. So be adaptive, and I'm pretty sure whatever change coming in, we will be able to overcome that. And that's the experience of people in Southeast Asia. So let's not too worried about that.
okay.
We will survive.
Thank you, sir.
Are you going to comment about the historical episode shared by Professor Murad?
Thank you, professors. Yes, indeed, when Abdurrahman Baswedan started this movement of integrating into the Malay community or Indonesian community at that time and promote the principle of where you were born, that's your homeland. At that time, it was rather controversial. At that time, it was a huge challenge. And that was also the contributing factors why there's so many Hadramid descendants in Southeast Asia is playing major roles in our society because they have been part of the fabrics of our society long before independence. They're part of the society. And there is one factor that we must not overlook. Many of the migrants were coming in to this region not as family, but as singles, and mostly males. The Arabs didn't travel with their wives. They leave their wives behind. They travel alone, and they arrive into this region and married the locals. And therefore, their uncles from the mother side is always locals. So when you call motherland, it is your motherland here, not father's land over there. And I think that's a very different perspective. So when we call motherland, it is your mother, and your mother is always local. And that is something that is distinctive. I mean, if you look at migrants coming in from Europe, they come in as families, husband and wives, but from the Arab world, mostly were coming or traveling alone or male only. And I think that is why the unity or the feeling of togetherness created is much stronger. One is ideological, two is genetical. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let us continue with the next round of question. I would like to invite from this side. Yes.
Right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Mahfud Ivan Hussein. I'm a student of IIM University. So my question is, firstly, I'm really honored to attend to your session today. And interestingly, you did mention several times about gotong royong, or togetherness in the Southeast Asia, especially in Indonesia. So based on your leadership experience as the governor of the biggest capital, the biggest city in Jakarta, in Indonesia, especially Jakarta, have you experienced to solve any horizontal conflicts, especially the conflicts regarding religions and politics? So what is your best suggestions and solutions to solve the ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestine right now? It's the first questions. And the second question is, in your mind, what is the best things that an ideal nation and ideal people must do to achieve the sustainability and also wealth, as you mentioned before? Thank you.
The second question, would you repeat?
Okay. It's about sustainability and wealth. So what are the things that an ideal people and ideal nations must do to achieve sustainability and wealth? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let us proceed.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Assalamualaikum Pak Anies. As what you mentioned before, the Malay language is similar to Indonesian language. So I think without a translator we can understand each other. So can I proceed my question with bahasa?
There is non-Malay in attendance here.
So with English then.
Pak Anies asked you to ask the question in English then, to the benefit of the other audience.
Okay. So I would like to ask regarding the language of Malay. What is your opinion if this language became the official language of ASEAN beside English? Because I think this language is spoken in Malaysia, southern Thailand, and some part of Indonesia. So what do you think if this language became the official language of ASEAN? Thank you.
Namanya apa?
Azam Kasubah.
Okay. Yes, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Safa Basyarahil, and I'm second year student from IIUM, and I'm from Indonesia. So I want to ask, maybe for some people...
Could you come closer to the mic?
Maybe for some people this is an easy question to answer, but for us as a student, maybe we need a very good and clear answer. If you say that by building trust, we can create a peaceful region. In line with the theme of our event, I would like to ask, how can we as students create similar trust in positive attempt or association that there we encounter various beliefs in action? I seek your opinion. In your view, is it prevailable to establish an association with a singular path, but fewer members and just stop there, or continue to get people on our side, but even though it demands significant energy and a prolonged effort to build a more inclusive community with us?
So basically it's about how to build trust.
Yes, but I asked for, is it prevailable to establish an association with a singular path, but fewer members and just stop there?
Yeah.
Or continue to get people on our side, but it hard and demands significant energy and a prolonged effort to build a more inclusive community with us. All right.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
It's very clear. Okay, can we have next?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Wadita Surya Putri from Indonesia, and I just doing exchange student in IIUM.
Come closer a bit, sister.
So my question is about the sustainable development. I think sometimes the effort to develop the economy value work clash with the interest within the society. And you said before earlier that one of our roots is environmental is essential. And my question is, what is the best way to create harmonization between environment and economy issue based on your experience? Based on your experience as a governor of Jakarta. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, can we have last?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. My name is Shahbuddin Mun. I'm a political analyst, and at the same time, I'm the chairman of the Political Bureau and Leadership Bureau of Majlis Perundingan Melayu Malaysia. It's a Malay Consultative Council of Malaysia. So, in fact, when I'm a political analyst, I engage to your Excellency videos all the way before I sleep, because after all, His Excellency is fighting for a very important position in Indonesia. So I know that you are very popular with the youth in Indonesia. So now I have seen right in front of me. So you are my idol too. Yeah, most of your thinking has gone into my writing style. So what I'm going to say today, assuming His Excellency you win this coming presidential election in Indonesia. So this is a time, I believe, from my own personal research, that a leader like you, the leader who have the Islamic, more or less, portray that what happened to this country, the Islamist party passed, is more or less come to the majority supported by our Malays here. And Indonesia, I believe, the same trend will be in your favor, inshallah. So means I've seen your short lecture with a very wide topic of Malay civilization, all that. And I more wanted to know what happened is, God will, you become the president of Indonesia, and our beloved Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, who is my idol too. And I think both of you has got certain chemistry here. What sort of cooperation now, you know, there are a lot of economics, all that. What is the future? You're talking about AI, and all various cooperation and relationship. So this is what I would like to explore. Thank you, His Excellency.
Thank you very much. Before we go to that, let's allow the Dr. Anis to answer first the question. I think, Dr. Anis, are you going to be interested to answer the last question first before we go up?
I'll do the last.
Okay.
So help me to reiterate some of these questions.
Yeah, the last question, right?
No, the previous.
The first question, okay. The first question is related to the culture of gotong royong that you mentioned in your lecture just now. Okay, we stop for a while.
let me comment to some of these important questions. First, with regard to gotong royong, have you experienced the method of using gotong royong in solving problems? Yes. Alhamdulillah, gotong royong is our roots in Southeast Asia, and the modern terms is collaboration, the work together, and we actually declared Jakarta as a city of collaborations. And when we solved problems of our traffic, Jakarta was famous for being heavy traffic congestions. When I stepped into office, Jakarta was ranked 4th most congested city in the world. Not bad. When you're number 4, I mean, what can you expect when you're number 4 in the world? So you step into that office, and so our idea was to transform our citizens from taking private vehicles into public transport. But we have more than 25 operators of public transport across the city. So I invited them for a meeting, all these operators, and I share with them the idea of gotong royong. Let's solve this problem together. We will shift the way we manage public transport. In the past, the public were using public transport, then they have transaction. So you pay to the microbuses, and the microbuses will give you services. And we told them we're going to change this. The public is paying to us. You can take public transport for 3 hours at no additional cost, and you can move any public transport with single tickets. And then we pay these operators based on kilometers. So they don't have to rely on how many passengers in their microbuses, because we will pay them based on kilometers, not based on numbers of passengers. So they don't have to wait in a certain corner of the street waiting for passengers. They just have to circle the routes. So we changed the equations. We talked to everyone. At first, it was one of the most difficult meetings we had. The most heated meeting I ever experienced, actually, when I meet with all these operators. And they were saying, the government is never fair. You are operators and you are regulators, and you have conflict of interest, and we have all these, sharp words to us. And I was new governor, so they were talking about government in general. So we shared our plan, talked with them. Meetings took place more than 70 times to reach agreement on the rates. It is a long process. It is a collaborative process. But at the end, we reach agreement, we move forward, and then we are able to double coverage of public transport in Jakarta from 42% of area of Jakarta into 87% in 4 years. And we tripled ridership from 350,000 passengers per day into 1 million passengers per day. Why? Because all these operators were integrated into a gotong royong system together. So Jakarta ranked number 4 most congested city. The following year, we dropped to number 7. The following year, we dropped to number 10. Okay? But we're still on the top 10. You want to be on the top 10, but not on traffic congestions. You want to be in the top 10 for something else. But in the 3rd year, we dropped to number 34. And then we're dropped to number... And that's not the end of the story. When we dropped to number 46 in the following years. So imagine, from the 4th most congested city into number 46. We are much better than Tokyo actually now. Yeah. And how that is done, it's not by us giving instruction. It's by suro. It's by gotong royong. It's by collaboration. Is the process speediest? No, more than 70 meetings. Can you imagine? 70 meetings, intensive meetings, sometimes heated. However, those are in a private conversations, all these differences until we reach agreement. And once we reach agreement, then we move forward. So we had that experience. And with regard to religious affair, the same thing. Sometimes we have issues of permits to build churches. Sometimes we have issues of permits to build mosque in Jakarta. And when you face that challenge, you don't go out to public and announce. You invite all related party, sit down together and share what is your thought, what should be the guiding principles, and openly talk about it. I remember having conversations with communities that rejected a permit for a mosque. Imagine in Jakarta, there's a community that say no to a masjid. Okay, you talk to them, discuss with them openly. But on the other hand, I'm also meeting the Muslim neighborhood who said no to permits for church. You talk to them, explain openly, explain the rules and regulations openly, hide nothing, and tell them why it is important that everyone to uphold the values that I have been echoing over and over again. The principle of equality, the principle of justice. When you talk about that principles, it's a lot easier for everyone. I ask these simple questions. Do you ever read on your WhatsApp group or your Facebook stories about our fellow Muslims in UK, in Germany, feeling grateful that they finally have masjid for them to pray? And for many, many years, we often heard difficulties of Muslims as minorities in other places to have place of worship, masjid. Imagine in Jakarta, there is that story spreading on the other side of the world that the Catholics or the Christian unable to build churches here in their land. We are happy when the Muslims get the masjid in Europe. We should be grateful to allow our fellow Christians and Catholic to have churches in this land as a spirit of justice and tolerance. But again, surah, the spirit of gotong. So we had that experience. Now, with regard to using bahasa as a language, we need to enrich our language to begin with. I don't know how many words in Malay today. How many words of Malay? The number of words in the Malay language. How many? Anyone? In Bahasa Indonesia, we have 150,000 words in Bahasa Indonesia. And I remember when I started my job as Minister of Education, at that time it was only around 90,000. So I told our team, we need to enrich our language because 90,000 is not enough. Do you know how many words in the language, in English language? 1 million. And 7,000 additional words every year. How many languages in Arabic? 12.7 million words. Okay? So when you talk about our language becoming a language of international community, you really need to do our homework, enrich our language. How do we enrich our language? Absorb local language across the archipelago. Across the archipelago. Because in many local languages, even the word falling, it can be 20 words of falling. If you fall to the front, that's a different word. If you fall to the back, that's a different word. If you fall because it's slippery, that's a different word. And if you fall because there is a hole, it's a different word. What I'm saying is that richness of a language is important when you present it to the international community as an international language. So that is why it's important for us here in Indonesia and Malaysia to continue enriching our language so that we can stand up in the international community and presenting our language to the world. But if we haven't done our homework, wait a minute, okay? Hold on. So do our homework. Now, harmonizations of economy and ecology. This is something that we need to look at it beyond profit, but benefit. If you look at simply from the perspective of cost and benefit, then investing in environmental friendly approaches often being seen as expensive. That's why we need to view our expenses with regard to environment not as cost, but as investment. If we see this as cost, then we try to minimize the cost at the expense of ecology. But if we look at it as investment, then we are talking about the benefit that we may be getting in the futures. And that's how we change the equation. So the triple P, which has been popular in the past decades, profit, people, planets, it's an equations that we need to put together and seeing this as creating benefits. Now, visions of Indonesia and Malaysia, these last questions with regard to the presidential election in Indonesia, as well as here in Malaysia with Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, who is now the Prime Minister of Malaysia. Pak Anwar Ibrahim is an inspiration to so many of us. Needless to say, he is an inspiration. And for myself too, he was leaders of students, leaders of youth of Malaysia, and his stories were also all over Indonesia. So we follow through, and we're very proud of him and his leadership. And now, Indonesia is undergoing a transformations in the past 25 years. We had reform in '98, and after 25 years of reform, we are seeing new generations coming up. And the way I look at this is this. This is two nations that has populations of Muslims in large numbers and practice democracy, and generally speaking, practice tolerance. And yet, this is also a region in which prosperity a presence. And I cannot think of other word except continuing the path of creating justice to all, so that this transformation continue. When we talk about Indonesia, for example, I think Malaysia the same thing. We and the rest of the world, modern world, we are seeing that the gap between modern industrialized nations with us is narrowing. The gap is narrowing. So cities like KL, Tokyo, London, Amsterdam, the difference was not as wide as it used to be in the 70s or 80s. Now the gap is narrowing. But on the other hand, the gap within countries are widening. So the gap between Jakarta and our remote area and our smaller cities are now widening. This is the challenge for future leadership. If we are able to address this issue and spread equal opportunity, I think the world can look at us here in Southeast Asia, and we will be able to go out there and say, this is a nation, this is two nations who have Muslim majority population, practicing democracy, delivering equality, common prosperity, something that the world should look at us as an example. This is not only regions that went through democratizations, but this is regions where democracy delivers. And we all know that we have been given the positions of Khalifah that create sort of equilibrium, the feeling of balances. And I think that is something that we'd like to share with the rest of the world. So pray for us that inshallah in our elections, that spirit can win the hearts and minds of the people of Indonesia. And if we are able to do that, inshallah, we'd like to see, if I may put it this way, that Indonesia officially and technically is not a Muslim state. It's not an Islamic state. It is not a secular state either. For the lack of better terms in political science, it is a Pancasila state, a non-religious base. However, it values, it respects, and it absorbs religious values. So on that sense, it is more on the maqasid principle of Sharia that is being practiced. If we are able to deliver the purpose, the ultimate purpose of Sharia, then it's not so much an Islamic state, or even we rarely talk about Muslim majority, because this is a country of all ethnics, of all groups, and diversity is part of us. And I think if we are able to deliver that, inshallah, we will send a very positive message across the globe, and to undo some of the framings or perceptions out there that in a Muslim majority nations, through democracy cannot prevail. Malaysia and Indonesia have, and also perhaps Turkey, have shown to the world that we are able to practice democracy. Democracy delivers, harmony is present. So that's a message for everyone. Terima kasih.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Anis Rashid Baswedan, for the thought and wisdom. I believe that we benefit a lot from your sharing, and I would like to invite all of you to give a round of applause to our speaker. And to continue with our programs, I hand over to the MC.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmad, and thank you. I now invite the distinguished guests to step down.